and respect everyone's time today. So I'm Coach Will. I'm one of the career coaches here in the Carlson Business Career Center, often referred to as the CBCC. I've got Julie on the call here, our Senior Associate Director of Operations on our team, and she is our awesome Zoom assistant here. So she's going to be throwing links in the chat that I've asked her to throw in from time to time. If you want to be right into the slide deck right now and peek ahead, go right ahead. Julie's put the link in the chat for that. We will be sharing the slides and the recording afterward. So that will be coming to you as soon as it's downloaded and ready to go, probably this afternoon, maybe Monday morning, depending on my workload. But let's dive in. So here's my agenda today. I want to start by hearing a little bit about your priorities. I want to touch base on some job market information. This is really going to be adding AI into job search best practices. So that will be part of what I want to start as a baseline for this. And then we'll dive in around section 4 on the tools and the prompts, probably the meat of what you're looking for today. Want to do some time for demos to do some live generative work, and then have some additional resources and Q&A at the end. You'll see on some of these slides, I've used my favorite tool for making images is Meta's AI, so meta.ai. You have to be logged into your Facebook account to use it. So if you don't have one of those or don't have one anymore, I don't blame you. And also, it is just one of many AI image generators, but you'll see some funny images throughout the presentation, some of them from Meta's AI. Okay, so this is the other part I want you to participate in. I've got 2 questions I want to have you add into the chat. Just helps me to be able to customize this presentation. So first, what type of job internships are you seeking? So job titles, internship titles, functional areas, could be industry if you want. But what types of jobs or internships are you seeking? Please add those into the chat. If you're quick on doing that one, then I'll be watching that. Thanks, Rob, for getting us started with a couple of titles. The next thing I want you to add in is what's one thing you want to get out of this webinar? I want to make sure that I am focusing on what's important to you. And if you have anything else, feel free to add anything else into the chat too, as optional, but really want to know jobs, internship titles, and something that you want to get out of today's webinar. And I'll give a moment for people to add things in. Julie, what are you seeing in the chat, if you don't mind?
No, I don't mind at all. So we have Director of Consumer Insights, Director of Category Leadership, Senior Level Accounting roles, Product Manager roles, Product Development roles, Director or Senior Finance Manager, things related to finance or corporate development, Senior Marketing, Data, and or Science.
Great. So I feel like we've got a
nice grouping, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for reading that off too. So definitely see a lot for answering number 1. Would love to still take another moment if you have an answer for number 2 that you want to pop into the chat. So what's one thing you want to get out of this webinar?
Like Eric said, career pivot into corporate analyst, looking to get out of help with taking my prior experiences, descriptions, and achievements to make them fit with job postings.
Great. Thanks, Eric, for adding that one in.
Looking to be more efficient with search, especially when cold applying or going outside of their network. And wanting to learn some tools that might be overlooking and keeping an eye out for opportunities.
Good. Thanks, Joy. I missed that one from John. Thanks, John, for adding that in.
Rob also says how to use AI for job search, companies, roles, and specifically like how to use prompts or what prompts to use.
Mhm. Yeah. So this is a good sampling. I'm sure some people are still typing, and that's fine. And feel free to keep typing throughout. Some of these things will definitely be covered today, and some of them will be mainly focused on in one of my last slides about resources. As preparing this presentation, I really enjoy trying to figure out cutting edge information for how to use AI in the job search. Job search is really broad. Um, it's everything from career exploration to, salary negotiation on the tail end and everything in between. I've started to notice in my work that there is a lot out there about resume writing, about tailoring cover letters, resumes, LinkedIn profiles to specific jobs. Um, and that still might be new to you or you've never dug into that, but we do have some resources around that. And so the area that I feel like there's a bit of a gap in, I'll say in the literature, as like a higher ed person would say, I feel like there's not a lot about how to specifically apply to searching out jobs, industries, companies to target. So that's really what I'm going to focus on in today's presentation. Uh, so moving us along, and again, feel free to keep typing and entering. Before I get into the presentation itself, I do need to give credit where credit is due, as well as I have two thought leaders in this space that I really need you to follow on LinkedIn, start learning their craft, because they are so informative in this space. So the first one is Jeremy Schiefling. He has authored this book, Career Coach GPT. He is clearly the thought leader in this space, has about 50,000 LinkedIn followers, posts regular videos now around this. So his LinkedIn profile is there, so I'd recommend that you follow him. The link to his website, his company is called thejobinsiders.com. I noticed in one of his recent LinkedIn posts, he has a link for free Kindle versions of his books. He has multiple books. This is the most recent one through Sunday. So click on this link to get access to those. Um, Jeremy is also someone who has partnered here with Carlson. And I have to shout this out too. Our alumni coaches, Nicole Santani, Bridget Marty, have gotten us access to Jeremy's complete masterclass. And so you can click on this link here so that, and Julie's put it in the chat, it'll be in the slides as well, but this is free. It's valued at $300, but we have purchased it for our community. And so you can use this. He has great content. Again, he's a thought leader in this space. So take advantage. Just sign up with your email and dig into all the content. The other person that, if you've gone to business school here at Carlson, especially on the grad level, um, Steve Dalton is a name that may be familiar to you. Steve has written these two famous books. Well, the famous one, The 2-Hour Job Search. I don't know if The Job Closer is quite as famous, but The 2-Hour Job Search is a foundational book for job searching. And so I would say follow Steve on LinkedIn. As well, I'll use my cursor here. He has a very active LinkedIn group called the 2-Hour Job Search and the Job Closer Q&A Forum. This is a little picture that represents what the group icon is. I'd say join that group as you're searching. It's an excellent way to engage directly with Steve. He's pretty responsive in there. Here's links to his books. We have the many copies of the 2-Hour Job Search book here in the Carlson Business Career Center library that you can check out for free if you're able to get to campus here if you're local. It's a great book. But the top link here is it's a webinar actually that Steve and Jeremy did almost 2 years ago now on this. And I almost could have just skipped doing a webinar myself and just said, hey, everybody watch this thing. It's a little dated now in some of the things, ways technology has grown, but it's a really awesome example of what I'll be talking about today. So a bunch of links and a bunch of credit where credit's due for these individuals. Okay. So I mentioned this earlier, but really today, what I'm going to be focusing is on finding jobs, company research, and networking, best practices in finding jobs. Um, I should apologize that in the original advertisement for this presentation, I did say a little bit about some of these things that now I've decided should be out of scope, and that's mainly because I want to maximize today's time on the things, 3 items that are in scope for this presentation, but since I did advertise that I would talk a little bit about some of these things in the out of scope box, I've got lots of resources around that, and you can connect with me directly, and I can walk you through some of these. But on slide 22, we've got tons of resources around career exploration, personal branding, resumes, LinkedIn profiles, interviewing, salary negotiation, some AI specific, some just general good best practices in these spaces. Okay. So one of my most common questions I get in all coaching appointments these days is, Will, as someone who's paying close attention to the job market, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? So I just want to answer that question broadly. It does vary by industry. Um, for example, if you're a CNA or a welder or different types of certain jobs that Carlson doesn't focus on, you may have a much different experience in the job market right now than business professionals. So here's one image of showing what the job market has been like in the last 5 years now that we're 5 years since the beginning of the pandemic. And you may recall the Great Resignation and a lot of job changes in 2022. Um, there's lots of different terms. I wouldn't say there's one leading term right now for this. You can see there's a couple of one LinkedIn poll that wasn't huge or greatly scientific, but just a bunch of names for it. But I like showing all the different names they all kind of capture different things here. The white collar recession I think is a appropriate name because it's really hard in the what we would call quote unquote white collar jobs. The Great Rejection, which ended up winning this poll, I think is another good idea to be capturing this time, as there's a lot of not moving forward in applications, and that's partially because supply and demand, lots of applicants, few roles. The Great Standstill, I like that one too, because there's a lot of, my colleague Bridget Marty likes this, shelter in place. If you've got a job, make sure that it works because there's not a lot of movement, a lot of opportunities to move right now. So that's one thing that I've been seeing and my colleagues have been seeing a lot lately. This is specific to business schools, but I thought both of these graphics were helpful. And they're not the biggest graphics, so you can look a little bit more closely at them when you get a copy of the slides, or if you're in there right now, you can zoom in on these. But just know that, you can see that our recent grads, well, this isn't specifically Carlson data, but you can see top business schools like Carlson are also having significantly lower accepting of jobs in 2024. And so you can see that rolling averages versus the most recent years, there's just not as many people that are leaving their MBA program with a job right now. And I would imagine that holds pretty true for a lot of different programs as well. So just know that this is what we're seeing right now. So to combat those things, we want you to do the best that you can in your job search. And so I want to talk first about laying the groundwork of job search best practices. So these are 5 items that I'll go into briefly in 5 subsequent slides. But remembering that networking is essential, highlighting a concept from Steve's book about the 2-hour job search, that small to medium-sized companies are an untapped resource or underutilized resource. Applying early, level setting your expectations and what today's job market is like, and having parallel plans. I'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by parallel plans, but briefly, you probably already know something about this, that networking is the #1 job search strategy. It's estimated that about 60 to 80% of jobs are landed as a result of networking. And so networking is essential in this current market more so than in stronger job markets. What you might not know is this concept of weak ties or weak connections. And so in LinkedIn lingo, you might be familiar with first, second, and third degree connections. But here is a link to a study done by MIT. It's been done in other places as well, but this philosophy that, or this concept that weak connections, not your first degree connections, and maybe not even your second degree connections, are the connections that are more likely to lead you to your new employment compared to if the people you already know. So you may meet with a career coach and they may say, hey, reach out to your network. And you're like, I have. It hasn't led to anything. Well, maybe that's because your network is in a different industry than you. Maybe your closest friends and colleagues are people that work in a non-business function. Or maybe it's because you work in such a similar network that it's so similar that they don't know of new opportunities. But if you think about this image here of, well, who do your first connections know? And who do they know? And who do those people know? To broaden your network with warm introductions or growing your network through what right today might not be a strong connection, but can grow into a stronger connection through a couple of introductions. Like I said, there's some best practices from this book, The 2-Hour Job Search. This concept here is, so data from the book shows that 98.7%, so nearly 99% of employers in the US have less than 100 employees. That there's a couple problems with that. One is we mostly know of off the top of our head companies that are big brand names or companies that you've had an experience with. We all know of Target. We all have, many people here have likely heard of United Health Group, Best Buy, General Mills. These are big brand name companies. They fall in that 500 plus employees. Or you may say like, well, I know some lesser known ones, but they're still in that 100 to 499. That's only what 1.3% of all the businesses. It does represent a bigger percentage of jobs. Totally get that. That's in that right-hand column that shows the 16 million businesses and the 165 million jobs. Yes, they account for, can't do the quick math, but probably about a third of the jobs that are out there. But that means that there are still nearly 99% of employers that you may not be aware of, and that means that other job seekers aren't likely aware of them as well. And so they're not going to get this, they have a posting at Target or at General Mills, or let's get outside of Minnesota, Nike or JP Morgan. They're not going to get thousands upon thousands of applications. So that also helps with your odds of standing out to recruiters and hiring managers. So keeping in mind that smaller, lesser known companies can be a great untapped resource or undertapped resource. I'm not going to talk about AI tools that help with this as much today, but just wanted to point this out that right now it's highly recommended that you're applying early. We know that with job postings going live, there can be a quick fill up of there's enough qualified applicants, and a recruiter's like, oh no, I got to pull this posting down before I get too many people that I have to skim through or screen or be overwhelmed in this posting. So it's recommended that you apply early to get into that before it's either pulled down or be one of the first applicants that looks good to them that they're going to call back for a job. Now, when thinking about parallel plans, some people will use the language of like a backup option, a backup plan. What I really want you to be thinking about here is this next job, it's not going to be a forever job for you, most likely. On average, Americans have over 12 jobs in their lifetimes, and often your career path isn't linear. And that's just jobs. People can have often multiple careers, totally different functions, industries. And so one of the concepts in the 2-Hour Job Search book is try to formulate a big list of companies, 40 plus lists of companies, so that you're not just focused on your one employer or your one function or your one industry and disappointed if that company is on a hiring freeze, or that function is not in high demand right now, or that industry is facing some significant changes, potentially, impacted by some new policies. But, let's say you find that job that's, something that you're not super thrilled about this in this era. You saw in that 5-year data point of the Great Recession to the Great um, Shelter in Place or white collar recession, it can change quickly. And if you get in somewhere right now, it pays the bills or is good enough for this time, when can you be then pivoting into the next role that probably would be, within the next couple of years as the job market continues to improve? So broaden your mindset on different types of roles and opportunities. This image here, also, a reference from the 2-Hour Job Search, is thinking about baseball as your uh, success metric. I think Major League Baseball has kicked off already overseas, and starting here soon in the States as well. But in baseball, one of the things that regularly thought about there is batting averages. Batting average. If you get 3 hits out of 10 at bats, you're doing awesome. A 300 batting average is great. Is 3 out of 10 answers on a test or a quiz something we shoot for? Probably not. So what I want you to be thinking about is in the 2-Hour Job Search book, we often will say like, "Oh, have you reached out to these people?" Like, yeah, but I never heard back. So I'm gonna give up on networking because nobody gets back to me. I want you to be thinking about in that book, Steve Dalton would say, if you're getting 2 out of 10 result or responses, you're actually doing just fine. Um, I reached out to him one time and said, "Hey, Steve, you wrote this book before the pandemic. How would you change it post-pandemic?" He's like, "You know what? That batting average number, it's actually down to more like 1 out of 10. So if you're doing 2 out of 10 right now, you're actually doing better than average." So keeping that in mind, I want you to be thinking about doing your best and sticking with it because networking is the way to go, but it's not going to be every time you're hitting a home run. My colleagues, Bridget Marty and Nicole Santani also did a presentation on navigating layoffs and career detours. It's an excellent slide deck that's linked in this deck, and it really helps with mindset and helping you through more challenging job searches. So definitely check that one out. Okay, got a lot of context building up into. Let's get into the meat of this. So AI assistants. AI assistants are the way I'll frame this, talking about ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Copilot, Claude, DeepSeek, Grok, Meta AI, all these different tools. There's lots of them out there right now. Um, we here at the University of Minnesota, so if you're a current student or you're logging in through your account, we have Copilot with enterprise data protection with producer Julie mentioned during the beginning of the call that that's something that can be helpful, especially for staff or people who are trying to keep data more private, more secure in there. So I've got a lot of links to those. Julie's put in the chat link to go to that page. There's other U of M resources in here, but during the rest of the presentation, if you want to go to your favorite preferred AI tool, have that open in another browser, would love for you to be able to play along at home on some of these prompts that I'm about to highlight for you. And if you don't really have a preferred one, Copilot's the one I'm going to be using the most today. So try that one out if you haven't so far. Also, I believe that, I mean, I can't get access to Gemini through the U system. So Gemini, if that's your go-to one, you may have some issues if you're on campus or going through your U of M account with that one. Okay, a couple things to be thinking about with AI. AI is not going to solve all of the world's problems. It's not going to solve your job search either. It's going to help. I like the word AI assistance because it is a helper here. But as some of my colleagues have said, AI isn't a magic bullet, isn't a silver bullet. It will assist, but it's not going to do everything for you. It's not going to just put a job on a silver platter for you. It's going to make your job search more effective, but it's not going to do everything for you. The other thing I want you to be thinking about is thinking about how prompts work. And I'm going to be talking about prompts here in a moment, but garbage in, garbage out. If you're not putting in the best written prompts or more tailored prompts, um, you're going to not get the best results out. However, you don't have to, I don't want to overstate that and that you can't just put in any sort of prompt and take it and run with it. You always have a chance to refine your prompt. So if your first prompt you put in doesn't give you the best results, like I did one this morning that was like, oh, I said, I need a job, help me, find a job and see what kind of thing it would start out with. And it gave me like healthcare jobs and manual labor jobs. And I was like, oh, I should have put in something about business because I'm focused in this presentation for business students and Carlson students. So, then I put in my follow-up prompt as refining that. So, but just keep in mind that the better, the more precise your prompts, the better your outputs are going to be. Okay, so for those of you who really wanted to see some prompts, I've got a bunch of prompts on these next, I think, 4 or 5 slides, and they're just examples. They're just things that came to my head. There's like, oh, this would be one way that you could demonstrate some prompts. And you can even get these tools to give you some prompts here. But here's a prompt that, common conversation we have here in the Midwest, in Eggland, people who are interested in working at a CPG. So here it is. Here are some companies that I'm interested in working for. So you're training the AI assistant on, here are some examples. So General Mills, Land O'Lakes, Schwann's, Post. Could have put Post Consumer Brands. What are some things these companies have in common? Let's get to summarize that. And then some follow-ups. Okay, so you gave me a list of some of the things they have in common. All right, make me a list of similar companies. See what kind of output would be a good follow-up there. Make a list of similar companies that are smaller, lesser known companies, going back to that principle of small to medium sized companies. And then if you want some alternatives or some parallel plans, what are some companies in adjacent industries? Throw some of those in your AI tool of choice. Now, go right ahead as I'm showing some of these prompts of throwing in prompts that you think of or copy these and start throwing them in and see what kind of outputs you're going to get. I'm going to demo some of these here in a minute, but feel free, if this gives you enough to get started with, start playing around with it. Okay, here's another example of company research. So I'm creating a lamp list. So the lamp list is that 40 company list that's highlighted in the 2-hour job search. So I'm making a lamp list for my job search based off of the book, The 2-Hour Job Search by Steve Dalton. I'm generating a list of 40 companies. I want to work for a technology company. I'm interested in FANG, MANG companies, depending on if you're Meta or Facebook. I have a business degree. So it's training this on industry, on your degree, your background, not just like software developer type roles. So this is what I want it to do. Create a list of tech companies for me to target my job search. Should have said in my job search, for my job search. Include small, medium, and large tech companies in the USA. Because you want a region. If you want to say in Minnesota or the upper Midwest or the 5-state region, that may narrow your results. Here's some follow-up prompts you could use. Okay, I've got a list of companies now. What role should I target at these companies? Which medium-sized tech companies are known for their strong company culture? These second two, B and C, I can't take credit for. I was playing around with Perplexity, not my tool of choice, but one that I wanted to try out. And it suggested these as follow-up prompts. And I love this second one, which medium-sized tech companies are known for their strong company culture. Can you suggest tech companies that are focused on sustainability and environmental impact? That's not an area of expertise for me as a career coach, but for some of you, that's your jam or that's where you want to pivot into. That's a great follow-up prompt that Perplexity suggested. Okay, so those are some company research ones that you could play around with. There's an endless amount of possibilities of how you could craft these prompts. Okay, so hiring trend prompts. Here's an example one that I came up with, and you could use lots of different versions of this, but I'm looking for a job in supply chain management or operations. I'm about to graduate with a bachelor's of science in supply chain or a master's of supply chain management degree. And I want a list of employers that hire these types of graduates. Pretty broad, just looking for lists, but you at least gave it like what's your degree and what kind of functions you're looking for. Here's a totally separate one, you could say. I have 4 years of progressive experience in financial analysis. I was laid off from a government job. So I'm looking for a new industry. Which industries are hiring financial analysts right now? Have AI give you some ideas about different industries. Now, cautionary tale is like, let's maybe fact check some of these outputs. We worry about hallucinations from AI tools. And so maybe you get in there and you're like, oh, that actually isn't really an industry that's hiring a lot, or something else about that industry that's not very ideal right now. Let's say that it suggests, oh, manufacturing. You're like, manufacturing in the States isn't strong right now. What else could I look at? So, add a follow-up prompt or leave that one out of your list, but you're using this to just continue to generate more and more ideas. Okay, here's another one, maybe for a more senior individual. I'm looking for a job in Minnesota, so very specific geographic region. I'm not sure what I want to do next. I'm open to a career change. I have 11 years of experience in various business functions, including sales, marketing, management, and operations. So maybe this is a person who's done a lot of different things and just you're like, I'm open. I'm not quite sure what I should do next. What types of jobs should I consider at this time, such as which jobs are growing, stable, lucrative? Those are just a couple variables you could put in there, but see what kind of things it pops out with for helping you with different hiring trends right now. Okay, some networking prompts. Since networking is known to be such an effective way to get a job, but how can you expand your network? You might be drawing a blank on who or where should I be networking. So here's an example. I'm about to graduate with a degree in Human Resources and Industrial Relations, HRIR. I know that networking is essential to landing a job. What are some HRIR associations I could join? So give it a focus area and a specific request. What kind of associations are there out there? Okay, here's another one, another HR related one. I'm interested in becoming an L&D or learning and development specialist. What are some job titles of professionals in L&D that I should target for informational interviews? So thinking about like more senior level titles, what are some people that be more advanced in their career? Might be maybe a hiring manager. Here's a third one. I have my first informational interview tomorrow, so specifically to help with the networking side of things. I'm meeting with this person, could then put their LinkedIn profile URL in there to give them a chance to read through that. Help me to generate some specific questions to ask about their job, their career journey, company, industry, and advice for me. Help you come up with some unique and customized questions. Now, I will say one of the concerns we hear from hiring managers, and this is not a hiring manager prompt here, or an interview prompt specifically, there's more informational networking meeting. But we do hear that, some applications are really generic or really seeming similar. So they may output, whatever tool you're using may output a specific question, but then look at it and be like, would I say it that way? Or would I use some different synonyms, some different descriptors, some different tone? How would you make that your own? So maybe it doesn't sound so AI generated. Okay, so parallel plans or different adjacent job, industry, company ideas. Here's a couple of prompts here. I've been searching for leadership, development, rotational jobs, internships, but I haven't gotten an offer. So I'm looking for similar MBA or BSB type roles. What are some other job internship titles I should be considering? This could be pretty broad, but what we're hoping to see here is give you some ideas that maybe are adjacent to LDRPs so that you could then say, okay, That seems close enough, or I didn't think of that one before. Why don't I start targeting that? It's just continuing to give you more ideas to think bigger. Coach Bridget and I were talking about this recently about people that can get stuck on one job title. And if that job title is not working out for you, how might you think more broadly? She's got lots of great exercises, by the way, for thinking more broadly about that. But here's how, AI could help with that. So I'm interested in becoming a product manager. What are some similar roles? And this prompt here, honestly, probably could use a little bit more follow-up and refinement of it. So, what are some job titles that would prepare me to become a PM in 2 years? So, you get into a junior role, and then in 2 years, when the job market's stronger or there's more demand for PMs, you're ready for it. Okay, I want to work in the healthcare industry in a business function. But I'm an international student, and most of the healthcare companies I've approached don't sponsor. What are some adjacent industries I could consider? So I know that international students and students and alumni who need work authorization have much more significant challenges than our domestic job searchers. So sometimes there's certain industries that are almost entirely shut off to some of our international students and incredibly talented alumni. However, there are things that may be fulfilling that are going to be easier to get into. And so having AI search through some of our H-1B websites that are out there and different lists like that, and then spit back out some suggestions to you, can give you just additional ideas to pursue. Oh, and then, what are some adjacent industries? And then what are some companies within those industries to get you even more granular? Okay, so I want to do some demoing now. I'm going to try and get out of this presentation and take us into a couple of different tools here and then try, seeing what they spit out. These are the three combatants here today. So Copilot, ChatGPT, Perplexity. Again, I can't use Gemini because the U doesn't let me have access to that. And some of the other tools I just am not as familiar with, but these have been the three that I've dabbled with the most. So Producer Julie, if I take us on a wild goose chase and we cannot see screens, please let me know. But I'm hoping that everybody's seeing Copilot right now.
We sure can.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back into the chat and pull some of these job titles and ideas and play along with them. And if you have a prompt that you want me to throw in there, feel free to, or feel free to do it yourself on your own tool. So the first one from Rob, winner, he was the first one to have a post in the chat. So I'm going to put this. I'm searching for roles. What are some good websites? Scratch that, job boards I should use for my search. Pretty broad. And it may spit out a lot of job boards that you're pretty familiar with. The only one on there that I feel like maybe isn't as well known is the ladders. And I really like the ladders for more senior level roles. You can see with with Copilot, you can see some nice follow-up prompts. Let's take the same prompt here though. Let's see with ChatGPT. What would this one give us? And one of the things, well, maybe like, okay, a lot of similarities. We're starting to see a few different ones here. iCounsel, marketing, okay, ResearchGate, a couple specific companies, HBR Jobs, Angie's List, or Angel List. Oh, okay. I was like, what? What's that one here? Okay, so then let's go into Perplexity and see what Perplexity would do with the exact same prompt. So even though a number of these are the same, one nice thing is it does show some consistency. I often get a question of like, should there be somewhere else I'm looking? If they're saying all the same sites, that's probably pretty safe. I think the winner in my vote would actually be ChatGPT for this one because it gave us a few additional ones. The other two were a little bit shorter. Okay, so that's one example of something. I'm going to pull another one from the chat. So this one came to us from Eric. So I'm just going to copy and paste that in. I'm looking to make a career pivot into what are some networking, actually scratch that, professional associations I should join. And while we're doing that one, I'm going to do same for Copilot and Perplexity, and then see as they all spit out the same thing. Okay, so ChatGPT was first. So Institute of Management Consultants, IMC USA. Nice thing about this is often they'll give a few subpoints. What's it best for? What are some of the benefits? Chartered Financial Analyst Institute, Project Management Institute. I don't know. Okay, Association of Strategic Planning. I wouldn't probably say SHRM would be my first guess, but maybe I didn't read the prompt closely enough. So you can see some things are better than others. And some of these I've never even heard of before. And that's what I love about this type of stuff, is it just gives me additional ideas. And then ChatGPT is like, would you like any more details about any of these? And you could put a follow-up there. So that's first contestant. Okay, pretty short here with Copilot. Maybe letting me down in my preferred tool these days. Okay, Association of Professional, APBMA. Okay, we see a consistent one here of 2 votes for IMC USA. All right, Perplexity. Are you going to take the crown, or are you going to let ChatGPT win another one? Okay, so broken down by category. Got a couple of sources here, which I do like that about Perplexity. Some similar ones. Okay, we have another vote for APBMA. That's a mouthful. General networking. All right, I think my vote this time goes to Perplexity for the win. Copilot, I don't know. Can you rally and win another one here? All right. Do one more example before we get into wrap up Q&A. Okay, I'm gonna go to Rachel's here. We'll start with Perplexity. I'm looking for these roles. What are some current hiring trends that I should be aware of? So taking a different direction and give all 3 tools a chance to see if we get a tie, a 3-way tie, or all right. Let's see what Copilot has to say. Okay, the field of marketing data science is evolving rapidly. Several key hiring trends are shaping the landscape field in 2025. Increased demand with data-driven insights. Source here, focusing on marketing automation, emphasis on technical skills, remote work opportunities. Okay, and then a few, what skills should I prioritize? What can you recommend relevant certifications? How can I improve my resume for these roles? Okay, it's a couple different ways you can take that. All right, ChatGPT. Increased demand, growth, advanced analytics, predictive modeling. So you got trend, implication. I think this is more in depth to me. Key skills. Okay, that's nice. That's already built in, although I didn't necessarily ask for that. Industry's hiring. Ooh, that's kind of nice. All right. Perplexity, what do you got for us? Based on current date of March 21st. Okay. Not in bold, so maybe not as easy to skim here. But that's just a user interface here. Cross-disciplinary knowledge is highly valued. Remote work, so we've seen that multiple times. Data visualization, communication skills, cloud skills. Competitive salaries, saw a couple of them hint about the salary data. See what the source is for that. The future of data science. Okay, so, and then lots of things. I do like perplexities related questions. That is something that I've discovered in putting this presentation together. Okay, so Julie, can I, as tiebreaker here, I know you've been paying attention here. Which would you vote for? Copilot, ChatGPT, or Perplexity for this last round?
I'm gonna have to go with ChatGPT. I like the way they broke it all down. I like the different, categories and stuff. ChatGPT all the way.
Thank you. Thank you for that tie-breaking vote. I was actually leaning that way myself as well. So we have some consistency here. I will say there was a time where I was much more ChatGPT because I felt like it was the Kleenex of the AI space. It was the, universal. I feel like Perplexity is winning me over today as I've been finalizing this presentation, but I have really enjoyed Copilot as I've used it for a few months now as it's become the U of M tool. So we'll see. We'll see how these continue to evolve over time and which one becomes what the Spotify of the music industry, winning out as the #1 tool in this space. Okay, back to our presentation. So like I said, I'm not going to cover every single tool. I do think that we have lots of great tools that exist in the CBCC, as well as there's plenty of other places out there for these other areas. But if there's demand for these other ones, we could definitely do another presentation, deep dive on some of these other things like career exploration, resumes, LinkedIn profiles. I actually think I might build this slide out a little bit more before I send out the recording of this, but these are some of my favorites in each of these areas. So just know that you can access this awesome deck that my colleague Bridget, Coach Bridget Marty, put together for ChatGPT and AI and career based off of Jeremy's book. And just lots of great prompts within that for these other areas too. And producer Julie put in the link to that in the chat. You don't even want to wait for the slides to come your way. Okay, so that's it for me. I would really appreciate it if you connect with me on LinkedIn, that you stay in touch, that you send me feedback or follow-up questions or what you want me to cover next. But this is the time that we're wrapping up this presentation. I know that we're almost to the top of the hour, and so people may need to jump. So feel free to jump as you need. But if you have questions, feel free to either raise your hand and I can call it on you so you can ask it out loud or enter it in the chat. I'll be watching that. Otherwise, if you're ready to jump on to the rest of your day or play around with your favorite AI tool, go right ahead. But are there any questions?